Good morning. It is time for today's edition of the Weather Desk here from 13 News Now. You found us on the 13 News Now Plus app, and I'm delighted to be joined with Taylor Stephenson and Eugene Daniel. We got a lot to talk about, Taylor. You know, we've got severe weather tracking across the country. I know you've been keeping an eye on smoke and the big fire issue down in the Carolinas.
Yeah, that happened on over the weekend. We had those red flag warnings posted across parts of the eastern seaboard. So we're going to talk more about those big fires.
Yeah, where that smoke's going, and we'll take a look at some of the modeling on that as well. And then, Eugene, what is today?
Mardi Gras, baby.
Mardi Gras. Fat Tuesday. So, Eugene, you've got a lot of ties to Louisiana. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but weather is actually impacting that as well. So we're going to hear from both of them coming up. Again, we'll start off by tracking severe weather. We've got those wildfire updates from the eastern U.S. We'll hear more from Taylor on that. And then kind of an interesting story here on how reliable the data is from NOAA and the National Weather Service, why you can trust it. Ginger Z takes a really interesting look at that, and I'm excited to share that story with you. We also have weather impacting Mardi Gras. As I mentioned, Eugene's been watching that. We're going to take a live look down at Bourbon Street, the French Quarter. It's going to be a lot of fun. So stay with us over this half hour as we explore these topics. The first thing we're going to do, though, is track that severe weather that is right now moving across parts of Texas and Oklahoma. It is tracking eastward, and we are going to deal with it right here in Hampton Roads along the eastern seaboard tomorrow. That's why we have a weather impact alert for Wednesday, and I'll have more on those local impacts here coming up as we go over the course of the show as well. Right now, though, today, the area under fire, you can see from eastern Texas and eastern Oklahoma through Arkansas and Louisiana, back across Mississippi and Alabama. These areas are under that level 3 threat of severe weather, what we call an enhanced risk. You have a marginal risk shaded in green. The yellow area is level 2. That's a slight risk. And then this is an enhanced risk, that level 3. So we're certainly going to watch for that. And earlier this morning, we had the rough weather across central Texas, but that line is moving steadily eastward. And now those storms are erupting in this area here and continuing to press closer to New Orleans, where, again, they are celebrating Mardi Gras today. So what does that area shaded in orange really mean? It means numerous severe storms are possible. We could see a few tornadoes, I think multiple tornadoes in some cases down to the south, damaging winds, and there could be some hail down that way as well. What about tomorrow? I mentioned we're going to see this working eastward. Tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma has us right here in the mid-Atlantic for Hampton Roads and eastern North Carolina down through South Carolina, this area under this level 3 or enhanced threat for severe storms. Now, back up towards Richmond and areas north. You can see the Middle Peninsula, the Northern Neck, over to the eastern shore, those areas generally under that level 2 threat. But for Hampton Roads, the south side and the eastern parts of North Carolina and South Carolina, it's that level 3 threat. And again, we're talking about numerous strong to severe storms, few tornadoes, and I don't think the hail risk is as great for our area tomorrow, but certainly we have that potential for damaging winds, and that may be, you're going to notice the winds really increasing before the storms even come in. So a lot to track for you and a lot to break down. Want to take a look at where it's storming right now and give you the big setup. Yesterday I was talking about the area of low pressure was back over the Intermountain West, said it was going to work eastward, and then eventually that low is going to move off to the northeast. It's dragging this front eastward and down across parts of Texas right now into Oklahoma. That's where these storms are racing along. So we'll take a little closer look, and I want to take this full because we're going to zoom in and I'm going to switch over the radar mode here. Let's start off by putting the winds on and just showing you again how the winds are moving around this area of low pressure. There's actually two areas of low pressure. So as you can see, we've got the one centered right along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. It's kind of the parent low. And then you've got an occluded front. And this is a sign of a mature storm system. How do you get to an occluded front? What is that? Well, you know, you've got a cold front here, but as you get warmer air kind of wrapping around from the south, if it's a really mature system, that warmer air can actually get wrapped all the way around the back side of it and start to come in, and the front actually can have some properties of both warm and cold. It's just a sign of a very mature storm system, and that's what we're looking at, this second area of low pressure that's developed along this line here, and the trailing front extends down across Texas and back across Mexico. So here, just offshore, we've got high pressure. That high pressure, the difference between the high there and the low here, as this squeezes eastward and moves along, that's going to tighten up the pressure gradient, and the winds across our area will really increase along the eastern seaboard. So that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. Let's take a live look. We'll take a look at the radar mosaic. That's what I really want to get into here across the south central U.S. And you do see a couple of tornado warnings that are issued right now down across parts of Texas. And we'll zoom in and give you a little bit. You can see approaching Texarkana. It looks like it's just past Cookeville, and you can see down to the south some heavier stuff. It looks like more recently, at least with this radar mosaic image here, that the cells that they were warning on have weakened. Certainly the one that is moving off just to the north of what looks like Atlanta, Texas. And then this one here that's approaching between New Hope and Boston, Texas. Again, you've got an area there that was also under tornado warning. There may be a little something still there, but these are not the live NexRad radar images. This is a mosaic. So what we do to show kind of the broader pictures, we take multiple radar sites and we combine them to show you that. This area right here, and we'll take, again, a little closer look right along I-30 there. We'll zoom in a little bit. You can see that is the area that likely has something going on with it. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. We'll just take a quick look a little more closely at what's going on with this. Again, the information on this, the tornado warning, you have a severe thunderstorm warning just to the north. You see that. But the tornado warnings extend down for Boston, Texarkana, and Wake Village. About 90,000 people impacted by that. I'm trying to get a little more information on that. So as we take a look, let me see if I can just pull up the report coming out on this tornado warning. And we're doing this all live, and I'm grateful that we can do that. Again, this is a tornado warning that was issued, again, trying to determine whether it was radar indicated. It is, okay, I just got to that report. Okay, so it is a radar indicated rotation. We're going to continue to watch that. This is moving along. The concern, obviously, a tornado down there, and it is moving along off to the east-northeast. So, again, down across parts of Texas, this is where the severe weather is right now. We can pull back out, and I'll loop this. You'll see how quickly the line is moving along, but where you have these kind of little discrete circulations and rotations forming along this broader line here that is working. Notice all the thunderstorm warnings in a huge line spanning hundreds of miles here, but the individual actual tornado cells, there's just 3 of them, 3 different warnings that are kind of formed along that line. So we'll continue to watch that. This is just kind of the type of weather you can see. And remember, it's still early there. As we go later today and into the afternoon and we reach more of that peak heating, these storms are likely going to become more intense. So when we showed you just a little while ago, and I'm going to jump back over just to make that point, you know, when you see that you've got the severe weather outlook and that potential for the strong to severe storms, let's go ahead and take a look at that one more time. You can see how to the east of that area, right now, I mean, northeast Texas is under that enhanced risk as well. But you look just off to the east of that, Arkansas, I know Louisiana and Mississippi, these areas here, as that line moves, now you're getting into the afternoon with the peak heating, and that's what the concern is for those areas to the east. So we're going to talk more about that as we go along, but I did want to give you that heads up on that potential there down across the deep south. Now, we are going to take a look at our chances for rain here in Hampton Roads, and again, tomorrow, that's when we're going to find the bad weather here in the mid-Atlantic. So you take a look here, and we're not going to see any of this today. Today, we're in good shape. Partly cloudy. Temperatures are warmer. We are going to see a return to a southerly wind, but it's going to be tomorrow during the afternoon and really mid to late afternoon into the early evening around 6 or 7 o'clock. That's when we're going to get the bulk of the rain and the greatest chances for the strong to severe storms. As I mentioned, what we're seeing right now, those severe thunderstorm warnings that are issued down in Texas and Oklahoma, pushing towards Arkansas right now, and those tornado warnings, that's coming where it's still morning. It's early mid-morning in those areas. They haven't even started to heat things up. When this line comes through our area tomorrow afternoon, we'll be reaching temperatures in the upper 60s, close to 70, and that's going to provide more volatility or more instability for the potential development of storms. Once those clear out by early evening, we're going to see much drier conditions. We look a lot better going forward beyond that. So we've got the strong cold front and the possibility of severe storms coming through tomorrow. What you need to know, we're going to see the potential for gusty, damaging winds even before the storms arrive. Remember that pressure gradient where I said the high pressure's offshore, we've got the approaching cold front where you have the big differences between the high and the low over a shorter distance. That's where the winds ramp up. We're going to see that tomorrow. A few tornadoes will be possible. A lot of times, we get these storms, we're like, oh, the main threat's winds, oh, there might be an isolated tornado. In this case, I want folks in the mid-Atlantic and certainly around Hampton Roads in northeast North Carolina to know that the possibility of tornadoes, that's in play tomorrow. Again, hopefully it won't be a really big deal with numerous tornadoes, but the possibility exists, and we're certainly going to be watching very closely for it here at 13 News Now, and I encourage you to stay weather aware tomorrow afternoon. The timing on that most likely between 2 and, say, 7 o'clock. Now, again, the damaging winds, moderate to high, that's the greatest risk with the storms. Lower risk of hail. We do have a risk of tornadoes. We'll call it low to almost moderate. So again, pay attention to that. And I do think as we get maybe an inch or so of rain in a very short amount of time, that could be an issue as well. All right, we take a look here at the winds and how they are going to be picking up. Now, these are just the wind gusts from our modeling, and this doesn't even take into account the variable, potential for these isolated storms. I mean, you get these things as we get going tomorrow, you're going to notice the winds picking up 7 a.m. The line of storms is out here, so we're not even talking about outflow from individual cells. You're looking at winds starting to gust 25 to 30 miles per hour. As we go towards midday, now you're looking at gusts close to 40 across Hampton Roads. Maybe some gusts up around 41 at Chesapeake. A Hosky could see a gust to 50 or Emporia as that line gets closer and closer. Now, as we go through the afternoon, you're still looking at gusts low to mid 40s. Bring in the storms, you could be looking at gusts 55 to 60 miles per hour. As we go towards the evening, look at this, Melfa projected with a gust to 57 miles per hour, 45 mile per hour gusts in Elizabeth City. You get the point. Virginia Beach, 43 mile per hour gusts. The winds are going to be whipping tomorrow afternoon. And then once the front clears and those storms move out, things will look better. We've got a couple of the global models. Here's the GFS, and you can see how it does march across the deep south. And then tomorrow afternoon and early evening, it comes through our area. Models very much in agreement. Here's the Euro, very similar track with the timing of this. So our confidence is very high that we are going to deal with the showers and storms tomorrow afternoon here in the mid-Atlantic, and I expect this to be a problem across the southeast today. So high certainty in that and a lot of rain moving into the northeast. Confidence high in the forecast. All right, so we've got our strong to severe storms. And I got to tell you, with the severe weather we're tracking, it actually comes at a very predictable time. This is known as the severe weather, the spring severe weather season. All right, I mentioned earlier, Taylor Stephenson is with us. And last night, she took a look into the forces that caused this season. Here's what she found.
Now that we've entered March, we've also entered our primary severe weather season. Spring severe weather season runs from March through May, and here's why. The jet stream becomes more volatile during these months, signified by its wavy pattern. During the springtime, warmer air begins to move north, creating a significant temperature gradient between the colder air already in the north. When those two air masses clash, cold fronts form, and the low pressure systems ride the waves of the jet stream. These systems also pull in a lot of moisture from the Gulf and the Atlantic. The four ingredients needed to experience severe storms are wind shear, a lifting mechanism, which is usually a cold front, instability from solar heat, and moisture. In Virginia, over a 25-year average, we only experience 1 tornado every March and 2 in North Carolina. That number rises to 4 and 6 respectively in April. Our secondary severe weather season arrives in the fall. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
All right, Taylor, we're going to hear more from her in just a moment. She's got a live update on those fires down in the Carolinas. All right, so just to focus up now on the severe weather threat in the mid-Atlantic, we heard, again, nothing that's surprising about this. The models have well forecast this. We started talking about the storm chances last week here at 13 News Now. We saw them coming, and we declared the weather alert, or the weather impact alert, for tomorrow. We started that Sunday and, of course, continued it yesterday and today. So tomorrow between 2 and 7, gusty winds, maybe some small hail, although, again, hail not as big an issue. We're a little bit, I'm concerned for the potential for a few tornadoes and some heavier rain potentially as well. Want folks to stay weather aware and then act when there are warnings. You need to go indoors when thunder roars, just as a saying, something to keep in the back of your mind. All right, we'll take a look at the futurecast, and I want to time out this storm as it comes through our area. We're good today. Temperatures up in the low to mid 60s across the area. Into the evening, temperatures into the 50s, but they don't really move overnight because we get this strong south wind with gusts 20 to 25 miles per hour overnight. Then tomorrow, as we go towards midday, you see the approach of that wet weather from the west. We've got the temperatures jumping up into the mid 60s. We'll see mid to upper 60s, and note those wind gusts at noon. Again, not even feeling the effects of those storms yet, but we're seeing the winds gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour. As we head towards 2 o'clock, you see the gusts picking up. Now that line is knocking at the door here along I-95. Showers starting to creep in western parts of the area as we go through the afternoon, stopping it at 3:30. We have a line of storms, and this is where we're going to be concerned, watching for potential areas of rotation along this line. Very heavy rain, maybe an inch or so of rain in a short amount of time. By 4 o'clock, it's rolling through Newport News. It's into York. It's up around Gloucester. It's approaching Matthews. It's up through the northern neck. It's working down the peninsula, those intense storms cutting through Suffolk, down into Gates County, maybe down into Bertie, a little farther to the south. We're going to be watching that as we go to 4:30. It's now cutting through the heart of Hampton Roads, from Hampton and Matthews down across the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel into Norfolk and Portsmouth, Western Branch, back into Deep Creek, Chesapeake, and down through northeast North Carolina. That's at 4:30. By 5 o'clock or so, now it's really bearing down into Virginia Beach. And again, the timing may be sped up or slowed down a little bit within the next 24 to 36 hours, but this has been pretty consistently handled with the models, maybe speeding up just a little bit. Again, it continues to work. By 6 o'clock, it's clearing the coast, lingering down around the Outer Banks, but it'll clear that area a little bit later. And by 7, we should be in great shape. Now, I mentioned again, rainfalls generally around an inch or so. It looks like the model here, the latest graph model on RPM, starting to back off just a little bit. You see Richmond with a bit more, Tappahannock also around an inch and a third, maybe an inch in Edenton. Don't get overly hung up on these numbers. We could see some locally higher amounts as well. But it is interesting to note because I think it's speeding up the process a little bit, kind of moving them in and through the area. All right. So we've got this threat of severe weather, but it's not all bad in that it's going to bring some heavy rain, and that should help with those wildfires down in the Carolinas. And with more on that, I'm going to throw it over to my colleague, meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
In the meantime, Craig, I had to do a quick change so I could come back on camera from that red to purple. But firefighters across North and South Carolina say they're making significant progress, putting out more than 170 wildfires that broke out over the weekend. In the last 24 hours, an additional 10 fires popped up, but officials say they were either extinguished or contained. At least 2,000 acres have been torched across the Carolinas, including the edge of beloved Myrtle Beach. As fire crews put in overtime, community members are banding together to help in any way they can. Businesses contributed thousands of dollars in supplies to support emergency responders. From water, Gatorade, food, to eye drops, medicine, and extra socks, residents gathered donations into hubs for crews to find relief.
hats off to our fire service. We had a ton of additional support from multiple surrounding counties. So all of our men joining forces together, working as one unit to protect all of our, community members and elderly, and all the children that have homes here in this area. This is a heavy family area, and it was just impressive. It made us feel really good to be a part of this community, even being a part of the food distribution and coordinating all these donations. It's been unreal, but we're very, very proud of our first responders, and we wanted them to feel how proud we were by coming out here and stepping in and making sure they had what they needed so they could focus on what they were here to do.
Now, when crews began battling the fires, they were up against dry conditions and gusty winds. The same winds and gusty, dry conditions we had in Virginia, where parts of the Piedmont into our western viewing area were underneath a red flag warning on Saturday. Those barriers have subsided, allowing firefighters to battle flames more easily. And with the upcoming rain that we just talked about with Craig that's hitting us here in Hampton Roads, will also hit down there in South Carolina. That rain will help extinguish the flames across the Carolinas. Now, where's the setup when it comes to the smoke? Could we see smoke here in the Mid-Atlantic? Well, here is part of that smoke forecast. You can kind of see little areas of where these active wildfires are going. We do have some in parts of the central Virginia where you can see little pockets of very tight color gradients showing the heaviest smoke kind of coming through parts of Maryland and then into central Virginia. Now, from the wildfires to our south, because we have high pressure offshore, we now have a south wind. So we could pull in just a little bit of minor smoke today, but for most of us, you will not see the effects or feel the effects of the smoke that's coming through for your Tuesday. That will continue through the day and then taper off as we get into early Wednesday morning. High pressure continues to slide offshore, making way for that very strong cold front Craig just talked about. That will bring us the chance for those very strong to possibly severe thunderstorms. Now, overall, our wildfire danger for today is extremely low, anywhere from 0 to 1 on a scale of 8. That will show you where we can see the best chance. Now, over into Kentucky, maybe a little bit higher, but that's about it for today. Back to you, Craig.
All right, Taylor, thanks for that information. And again, appreciate that wrap up on the wildfires in the Carolinas. Though, destructive fires are impacting people overseas as well. Hundreds of people have evacuated in northeast Japan. A forest fire has burned more than 5,000 acres in a coastal area of the country. Dozens of homes have been damaged, and more than 2,000 troops and firefighters are deployed there to help out. Those northeastern regions in Japan have had their driest winter since 1946, which is when Japan's meteorological agency first started collecting data. Now, we're going to talk some more about data here. You can see yesterday's high, 46, 27 the low. You take a look at our normal high. That is 57 for this time of year. This is just an example of the types of information when we talk about climate and data. You hear us oftentimes referencing the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We talk about them a lot. It's also known as NOAA. They provide daily weather forecasts. They help with information there, severe storm warnings, and climate monitoring, on top of a lot of other important products. So, just how do they adjust their climate and weather data over time? ABC's chief climate correspondent, Ginger Z, has more.
After I posted about 2024 being the warmest year on record, I got a tweet that said NOAA is manipulating their data to make the older temperatures colder and the more recent or modern ones warmer. They even had a chart. It looked alarming, so I said, we better check into it. The data in that chart comes from the U.S. Historical Climatology Network. It's all part of NOAA, and they do adjust their data. They've done it for years. That data is collected at places like this. See all that instrumentation? That's called an ASOS, an Automated Surface Observing System. Temperature, pressure, wind, a whole slew of things are captured there, and that's the raw data. Then they are analyzed and archived by NCEI, that's the National Centers for Environmental Information. They are the world's leader and biggest provider of weather and climate information. They change and adjust things all the time, but they don't hide any of that. They do it because that's how you do science. NCEI says that everything they do has been backed by multiple peer-reviewed studies, and it's all public. Nothing is hidden. You want to go look at the raw data? You can too. But why do they adjust data in the first place? There are many reasons. Number one, the resolution has totally changed. Think about when I had a Game Boy from Nintendo back in the day versus my kid's Nintendo Switch. The resolution is so much better today. That's how our temperature data is too. So you can't compare without adjusting the old for the new. That way, the trends come out legit. And number two is an easy one. Cities, with all of their asphalt and buildings, have a warm bias, the urban heat island effect. It happens here in New York City or a place like Phoenix where they've had explosive growth. That warm bias has to be accounted for and adjusted for. Number three, location of the instrumentation has changed. I mean, if it's not here at Central Park, one of the oldest places that's been consistent throughout history, a place like Chicago, they changed it from the lakefront to O'Hare. That has to be accounted for. Number four, instrument technology has changed a lot. I mean, think about how we get sea surface temperatures. It used to be from a ship, but you can imagine that that wasn't very consistent or thorough. And so now that we have buoys and satellites, they have to adjust the old data to make sure that all the trends are the same. There are several other reasons that they adjust data, but it's always for the bettering of science. And they're not the only ones that do it. NASA does it too. NOAA and climate scientists are not manipulating data so that they can make it look like the world is warming. Agencies all over the world have that data, and it all says the same thing. Our annual average is warming. And that's really the chart that we should be looking at.
All right, Ginger Z with that report. Really enjoy hearing that. You know, it's a quick reminder to everybody, this stuff, the data that we're working with, it is legitimate, and you take a look. You can investigate it for yourself, and you'll be able to see year after year, do the math. You'll see where we are. All right, so how about the next couple of weeks? 8 to 14-day outlook. I thought we'd take a look at a few things here. We're expecting above average precipitation over the eastern U.S., especially up around the Great Lakes region, and wetter than normal back across parts of the West, especially California. Really the only area that's expected to be drier than normal down across Texas. As we take a look at the temperature trends here, I forgot to show you this. You wanted to see the volatility of our spring severe weather. We get warmer again over the next couple of days. We get that front coming through. That knocks us back on Thursday, and then we'll see temperatures hanging pretty close to average before another big warm up with more sunshine next week. All right, I mentioned the precip outlook over 8 to 14 days. Here's the temperature outlook. It looks like we are going to get really warm beyond that next stretch of weather I just showed you there. So going out 8 to 14 days, more warm weather here, below average out on the West Coast. All right, let's talk about what's happening down in the Deep South. And Eugene Daniels, my man who's keeping an eye on Mardi Gras, why don't you tell us what's going on down there right now, Eugene?
As my family and sometimes will say down in the Louisiana area, hey, baby, right? Of course, Mardi Gras is a huge day for New Orleans. Folks start bright and early for Fat Tuesday, but this year, well, Craig, they're also dealing with some pretty serious winds and rain threats. We got a live look into New Orleans. ABC News is doing some live shots, and for their coverage all morning long, as you see, she's getting ready. Oh, I love it. Full ensemble, as you have to be. But, Craig, if you look there, too, you can see the people that probably are also bracing probably for some rain or some things down there as well. But the parade is getting away. You can see those crews, right? They're ready right now. The Rex Parade is starting to roll as we speak, and Zulu rolled out at 6:30 this morning. The tradition can be traced back to medieval Europe and even Roman times. The first Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, it dates back to the 1830s, but the first ever celebrations on American soil were back in the early 1700s. Now, Christians treat it as a day of feasting before Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent, but today officials rush to reschedule some celebrations with those storms forecasted across Louisiana and other parts of the South. Now, New Orleans, NOLA moved its two biggest parades earlier and also cut down the parade routes to account for that weather as well. But one thing I know for sure, Craig, no matter what, like my cousin who was just sending me videos of him celebrating overnight, people are going to have a good time regardless today, but hopefully things don't get too crazy with the weather.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this, Eugene. It's something else. You said your cousin was out till what? till
6:30 this morning.
Yeah.
He's young.
He pulled an all-nighter.
He's young.
Yeah, and I don't think he was studying at the library. All right, we're going to take a look at this just brand new tornado watch. It was issued for northern sections of Louisiana. Again, this is why Eugene was just telling us they were adjusting the schedules a little bit. They're trying to get as much done as they can before these storms come rolling through later today. I'm not even going to take a run at pronouncing all of these parishes, but I can tell you there is a good chunk of Louisiana, northern Louisiana, that is now under this this tornado watch in parts of East Texas as well. About 1 million, almost 1.1 million people affected or under this watch, and this runs until 3 o'clock. Now, as we take a look at some of the biggest celebrations of Mardi Gras, you have New Orleans, you've got Lafayette, you've got Biloxi, Mobile, these areas, all big parties and big outdoor occurrences. They're going to need to watch this weather very, very carefully, and we'll be doing that as well. All right, here are the headlines for the week ahead around Hampton Roads. Partly cloudy, much warmer today. We've got the storm threat, which we have talked so much about. It's coming up for Wednesday, and it has increased as far as the threat of stronger storms from what we were looking at yesterday. Yesterday, we were like, yeah, we're going to see some storms. Today, we go from that level 2 to a level 3 threat for tomorrow. Nicer end of the work week, and as I mentioned, next week looks great as well. So satellite and radar images showing quiet conditions out on the water. Peaceful today, but gale warnings will go up for the bay and the ocean as those winds will be howling tomorrow. Today, not too bad, but tomorrow a different story. Do want to mention also our allergy report. Tree pollen moderate again for juniper, maple, and ash. Mold continues to be low. Temperatures today, low to mid 60s across the south side. A little warmer for a few of the inland areas. Very pleasant. Get out and enjoy it if you can. Cooler on the eastern shore, 50s there. Low 60s for the peninsula and middle peninsula, 56 around Matthews. Into North Carolina at the Outer Banks, temperatures close to 59 degrees, and we have mid to upper 60s for those areas farther inland. Overnight tonight, lows aren't going to drop a lot. We're going to see them in the 50s, and then tomorrow back up closer to 69 degrees, so a little warmer. Showers and storms, some of those could be strong, possibly severe. Here's the rest of the 7-day forecast. After the line of storms, we start to clear things out tomorrow evening. Thursday, Friday look good. Saturday, 63. Daylight saving time begins Saturday night. So I know most of our clocks are now automatic, where our smartphones and some of our different smart features around our homes, they all automatically adjust. But if you've got maybe an old clock radio that you need to adjust, or maybe you've got a clock on the microwave or the stove or whatever, remember to set those forward this weekend. We lose an hour of sleep, but we get more sunlight in the late afternoon and evening. You know, that sunset pushes back an hour. So we're excited about that. Chance for showers Sunday morning, and then things get really nice into next week. Monday around 57, and it does get a bit warmer. I want to go ahead and remind you, you can find me on social media. If you come to Facebook, search my professional page, Craig Moeller, Instagram, Craig Moeller TV, and at Twitter at 13 Craig Moeller. And remember, you can always download our mobile app, especially with the threat of severe weather coming in. Hopefully, you'll take the time to do that. It's a great resource. Scan the QR code. You'll have access to all of our special severe weather coverage and all of our radars right there. Taylor, we're going to be super busy tomorrow. And Eugene, we're going to be talking about it on Daybreak tomorrow as well. A lot to cover. You ready to go?
I'm ready. This is my element. Severe weather season, being in Oklahoma and getting studies in Oklahoma. Severe weather season is my element. I'm ready.
Yeah, so we'll be ready to cover that for you. Again, that threat of isolated tornadoes. And Eugene, we're going to be keeping an eye down in New Orleans.
Yeah, my family's going to be texting me, whether it's what they're experiencing or what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Sure, but everyone make sure they stay safe and then keep watching and stay alert. I mean, that's what this is for. That's what you guys are excellent at, to make sure that you have the information to make good decisions.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Weather Desk. Thank you guys both for joining me this morning. I'll be back tomorrow morning. We're really going to focus on that severe weather impacting the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic region with tomorrow's Weather Desk. Be sure and join us.